Salesforce for nonprofits was built to help the moves management, or it wasn't just help to build this. So a typical CRM, right, for a for-profit company is to help get sales in the door. You have leads coming in, and those leads get converted to contacts and accounts. And this allows for sales reps to be able to manage their pipeline and be able to sell their goods or services by having a system to track everything and to kind of give them their tasks and that sort of thing. So with nonprofits, what you're trying to do when you're working through getting somebody to be a donor and ultimately be an advocate for your organization is you're moving them down the donor continuum, is what nonprofits call it. So you start at ignorance, right? So I don't know what this organization does. And I go to a webinar, or I see an ad or something, and I click on something, I become aware of what they do, right? So something makes me aware, and maybe I'm targeted. So that would be a lead, right? So maybe they buy a list of women. So say it was a nonprofit that helped women business owners, and they bought a list of women business owners, and I was on it. And I knew nothing about this nonprofit, but then they send me an email, or they contact me, or they Facebook target me, or something like that. Then I will become aware of what this women business nonprofit does. And that can kind of, you can see that as a campaign member. And then they invite me to a webinar, and I attend the webinar as a guest, and because I'm interested in what they do. And then they ask me to be on a committee. And so I volunteered to be on the next webinar planning committee. And I'm volunteering. So in Salesforce, you can kind of see, we track our volunteers. And then I'm asked for a donation. And after I've been able to participate and share and gather knowledge from other women business owners, I'm like, hey, yeah, I'll give a donation, right? Like I've gotten benefit out of this. So I feel like I am kind of giving back to the next women who join the group, because I'm really enjoying this nonprofit community and having resources to get small business loans or whatever this fictional nonprofit does. And then eventually they asked me to be on the board of their nonprofit. I have a lot of ownership over this organization, so I become a major donor. And that is, you know, going to be, when you join a board, oftentimes they do have a giving commitment. So it's sometimes a give or get board commitment, usually of about $1,000. So I become a major donor and I'm $1,000. So that's the donor continuum kind of explained, splicing in how it works in Salesforce. So what Salesforce has developed, more than just that typical lead to opportunity contact account conversion that you have with for-profits, there's also something they've created called engagement plans, so that a major gift officer could identify someone in a pool of people that they want to send down a track. So some kind of strategy that they have. I want to send this person down the webinar to volunteer, to presenter, to board member track. And these are the tasks and these are the things that I know that I have to do to get them there. And so that is what an engagement plan, the purpose of it is. I'm going to go ahead and show you what that looks like in Salesforce. So the first thing that an engagement plan you have to do to enroll somebody into an engagement plan is to create the engagement plan template, which I don't think is probably a standard tab right here. So if I click on engagement plan templates, and this is for a Salesforce instance that has Nonprofit Success Pack, you can download the Nonprofit Success Pack onto a developer edition. And if you don't know how to do that, I would just Google it. There's Trailhead on it. Or if you get stuck, just I'm happy to help anybody who gets stuck on that kind of thing. So I don't think, oh, I do. Okay. So this is an engagement plan template. So what this person did was create a new engagement plan, and they named the plan, and if a due date on a task is, well, I'll show you how it works and then I'll explain what these check marks are. But this is the main template object. The engagement plan tasks that are related to the engagement plan template allow for different days after somebody's enrolled into the engagement plan. So if I add someone automatically to this Platinum Stewardship Plan after they give a $500 gift or more, and I can then create these engagement plan tasks. So this one has been created so that it happens one day after the person enters the plan. And this one is 7 days, schedule a facility tour and lunch, follow up with an email after 3 days, and send an impact report after 90 days. So if I create a new task and I say board phone call, say, I can set this priority to high. I can send an email. I can assign it to someone. So if I assign it to the CEO president so that she can assign it out to a board member, and maybe I do that, 360 days after they give their initial 500, or they've originally been entered into this engagement plan, and that task is not started. And it's a call. So I save that. So what happens when I want a contact to enter into an engagement plan is all these engagement plan tasks, they're created as regular tasks that end up on whoever was assigned them's profile. So if I go to, actually, if I go back to that engagement plan template and these things, and maybe I assign these to myself, we'll be able to see them when I actually. I don't know why you would have it without it being assigned to anyone. I don't know why she set it up this way, because the whole point is that when they're when this task becomes due, it's assigned, or when this person enters this engagement plan, this task is assigned to this person, so that when I enter my homepage and I see today's tasks, my tasks will already automatically be there if I'm a major gifts officer, where I can see, oh, I need to call this person because they gave 7 days ago. And they gave $1,000 7 days ago. So I need to follow up with a phone call to thank them. And I don't need a report to tell me that. I don't need, some big like, oh, I have to remember to look this up every day because we decided our strategy was 7 days after somebody gave over $1,000. Or I have to manually create this task for myself because somebody gave $1,000 and I know that I found that out through my report. So let me make some tasks for myself to move this person through that continuum. So if I go to a contact, and I, let's see.
Just a quick question. I'm guessing the task can be assigned to a queue as well, so that.
Yes, I believe so.
Okay.
I think I need a button that's to add it to the engagement plan, actually. I don't know why it's not on this, it's not on the page layout, I don't think. Yeah, so I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna fix that in a minute, but I'll have you ask questions while I pull up a different sandbox that actually does have that all set up correctly. Logged into the wrong one. Anybody, Bueller? Okay.
Oh, I was typing out my question, but I'll ask.
Oh, okay.
So, template ready, it will trigger when someone gives X amount of dollars, or do you tell
that's the next part I'm gonna talk about,
okay.
is how to set it up to do that. That's through something called levels.
Okay, never mind then.
No, it's okay. It's a good question. So you can set it up for automation, or you could create an engagement plan with tasks that is something you just manually assign. So maybe I have some kind of campaign, right? So I am, say I'm that women's business networking nonprofit that I used as an example before. And maybe I have an industry focused path for a webinar series. And for those women who are in the technology industry, I want to put them on that engagement plan path. I want to have some tasks to have touch points with these women who are in IT. And I have a whole like giving strategy around that. That doesn't necessarily have to be something that's automated based on their giving level. That could be something that I'm just putting them in manually when I find out that Sarah might be a good candidate for that group of people. She might be one of those people I want to target. Like, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and put Sarah in this engagement plan, and I know that means in 5 days, the development associate is going to have to do this. And in 10 days, the volunteer coordinator is going to have to do this. And I will I'll be reminded to call her in 30 days and check in, you know, like just making sure that, and the program officer, whatever, you can assign different people, different tasks. And it's not necessarily a, sorry, it's taking a really long time to load. There it goes. Okay. It's not necessarily a automated thing.
Okay, so I can just manually put people on there. Okay.
Yes, that's what I was trying to show you, but this particular company that I had logged into doesn't actually have that set up yet. So,
Hey, Sarah.
Yeah.
Is there a template or like a checklist of this process where you can like decide up front how you want to run the whole thing and then sort of put it in Salesforce?
I built one.
Oh, excellent.
So
we didn't plan that ahead of time.
No, we didn't. So that was funny. And look how fast I pulled it up. That's great too. Okay, so when I explain this to major gift officers and I'm trying to get them to really engage with this, how do you move people through the donor continuum? Sometimes it's hard to envision, right? And so getting that strategy is sometimes easier to see on a spreadsheet rather than walking them through the sausage making in Salesforce. And so the cultivation action would be, so I can do different things at each donation level, right? So I have my prospects at $100, and the executive director writes a thank you note at 30 days after they make that gift at that level. Or you can also set it, or maybe it's not that level, maybe it's year-round giving. So whatever you decide that trigger is to put them in that engagement plan, you can do that. But when I'm trying to get people to decide what these levels are and what these touch points would be, I get them to think in this matrix. So what's the cultivation action? What is the trigger that would put them needing to get that cultivation action? And how many days after that trigger should they get that? Maybe they should get, if they give $10,000 or more, maybe it's 1 day after that that gift. If that gift comes in, especially if it wasn't solicited or it seemed kind of sudden, 1 day after that, the executive director gives you a phone call, or the board chair gives you a phone call and says, thank you so much for your $10,000 gift. That's amazing. It will do so much for so many people. So I'm happy to share this as a resource for anybody who is talking to a nonprofit and who's thinking about doing engagement plans. I think it's helpful. So this is the example on my spreadsheet, and then I just have the template like this, where you could fill in the donation level. For this template, it's about donations. You could do it based on number of volunteer hours. You could do it based on, like I said, the track you want to sign them on, that sort of thing. So let's see. Engagement plans. New. And I'm picking from an engagement plan template. So I'm going to put myself in the bronze template. And I'll attach my account. Oh no, I think you can only, let me do it because I think it's going to give me an error. If I try to attach this engagement plan to an account and a contact, I think it's going to say you can only have one or the other. Maybe. Does anybody know who's on? Yep, see? You can only do one. So you can have an engagement plan, which is just ultimately a series of tasks assigned to different users, right? So you can have a series of tasks assigned to different users at different time intervals after they enter after they've enrolled in the engagement plan, to a contact, to a campaign, to case, to an opportunity, or recurring donation. So for those who aren't as familiar with Nonprofit Success Pack, recurring donation is a separate object from the opportunity object. It's related, but if I essentially making a pledge to give $30 a month would be a recurring donation that I could create. And if I pledged for a year, I could put an end date on that. Or if it was just ongoing, I could not put an end date on the recurring donation record. And then Salesforce will automatically create the opportunities that will get closed every month when my $30 comes in and is received. So if I wanted to, I guess the example I could think of with that in terms of an engagement plan is maybe it's only one task to make sure, or maybe 3 tasks to make sure that the development director or the development coordinator sends them an email to re-up if they've only pledged for a year or something like that. I'm sure some people who are in the nonprofit world on this call could think of another example. Same thing with a particular opportunity. If you wanted to enroll them in an engagement plan or that opportunity into an engagement plan. I can't think of cases where I've done that. But the typical ones are going to be at the contact level or the account level. Storage limit exceeded. Lord, what did I do? All right, so if you get an error like that and you're in your dev sandbox, the way that you look and see what's going on with your storage limits, you go to setup. So I clicked on this gear icon, clicked on setup. I'm typing in company information. And I'm going to scroll down to these usage. Wait, where is it? Am I blind? Other admins on the call?
It's right there. Use this space.
Oh yeah. What the heck is taking up so much data? Maybe I imported a bunch of records into this this demo org. I apologize. I have other demo orgs. Here's one. Does anybody have any questions while I muddle around? Okay, so I'm gonna go to Nonprofit Success Pack. So
Sarah,
this
if you
is
had-
the default app that comes when you download Nonprofit Success Pack. Yep.
Sarah, if you had like 2 recommendations for people when they're dealing with the engagement plans, 2 or 3, what would those big things be?
I would
Tips,
say
best
with the
practices.
users that you're trying to guide through, something like this is really helpful. I think the tip would be really explaining that this is a strategy element to Salesforce. So unless you're really invested in strategically using this to move people along Continuum, move them in, use the system to really develop relationships, and you need stakeholder buy-in. So explaining what I just explained basically and saying this is how it could work for you. So I'm going to go ahead and add. So you see it didn't automatically add the engagement plan related list to my page layout just because I downloaded Nonprofit Success Pack onto this developer edition. I don't have engagement plans here. So if that happens to you, if you're playing around with developer instance and you want to play around with this feature, you'll go to setup. So I clicked on the gear icon and setup, and you saw all those objects that engagement plans were related to. So I could have just gone to the engagement plan tab and made a new engagement plan, selected the template and stuff like that. But I'm just going to go to contact here, page layouts. And so I could go to the account, I could go to the contact, I could go to opportunity, case, campaign, recurring donation. I could add the related list of engagement plan to all of those. I'm going to click on page layout assignment just to see which one is assigned by default. It looks like I'm getting the contact layout by default. So I click on related list and I'm going to look for that engagement plans, put that right on top there. And I'm going to press save. Yes. And the other field that I'm going to put on here on this contact layout is one called level that I'm about to touch on. Oh, it's already there. Perfect. Okay. So if I go to the details of Suzanne Smith's record, you can see this level. And levels are what I was talking about. So if you could have a bronze level for a donor who gives $250 or more. So I'm going to call this the bronze level donor. And the minimum amount to be a bronze level is going to be $250. And the maximum level, like what happens when I hit silver, it's going to be $499. I'm going to have silver start at 500. And I'm going to do this level on the contact. And then I'm going to pick the field that I'm rolling up. So this can be a bronze level donor. Maybe this is 250 lifetime giving, or maybe it's just annual. So I want to say it's going to be based on total household gifts this year. In nonprofit world, we try to roll everything up to the account because if I give money to an organization, my husband's giving money to an organization too. You know, we have one pot of money really to pull from. So both of us need to be acknowledged for our gift, and both of us need to be treated like equal donors. Even if one is really like I'm the primary contact at that account, really both of us are at this level, because if I die, the organization will really want to continue that relationship with my husband. I don't want that to happen. But.
Sarah, we have 2 questions.
Sure.
Are there any special permissions that staff need to use the engagement plans?
I think you would have to have access to the objects.
Yeah.
So the objects and for levels, the objects are engagement plan templates, engagement plan, and levels. And I think you could still, even though engagement plans can look up to all those different objects we mentioned, they just have to have access to one of those, I think, in order to really use it. So if they only have access to accounts and contacts and they don't have access to opportunities or recurring donations or something like that, that's fine.
Okay.
So the level field, I don't know why it's not, the field that should pull right here is level. I'm not sure why that's not showing. I know I've built levels on this one that has a full database for whatever reason, so I'll just show it there. So edit this. You see, I did this at the account level, total gifts this year. I picked the field level and I picked the field previous level. Maybe Salesforce doesn't, let me do this at the account level and see if that works. So one, I don't understand why I wouldn't see this, because I saw it on the page layout here when I went to this record before. So if anybody has any ideas why I would be able to see it here and for whatever reason not see it when I'm picking out level, let me know. I might have to look it up. How to pick a level field, or how to make level field available when building level in Npsp. And for those who haven't had their first Salesforce admin job yet, and that's why you're here, is to be looking for this, then I highly suggest you Google often, because that's how, if you're stuck, it's Salesforce is a beast, right? So I've done this before, I just forget how. So we click on powerofus.force.com, configure levels, and let's see. So this is about permissions that you need. You need edit, create. This gives all users full access. Okay, so this is the part where I'm getting stuck. Why is that level field not coming up? I'm sorry I didn't rehearse enough. I feel stupid now.
No, it's good because then we kind of brainstorm with you. I like this. It's okay.
I'm gonna check the permissions, the field permissions on that. On this pick list. So view field accessibility. Level. It's editable for everybody. Set field level security. It's visible for everybody, pretty much. But overall, you understand the concept, right? So if now, because I built this level, and I can attach an engagement plan to my level. So I built the engagement plan out where I get the thank you note, I get the call, I get, at different intervals. Then I've said when this field, total gifts this year, reaches $250 or more, then I'm automatically going to put them into the engagement plan template bronze, and their level in that level field on the page layout of contacts is automatically going to be bronze.
Sarah, I had a question on this. If you go back to the levels that you're creating, the source field, how do you know which one to use in the source field? Because there are so many in there.
It just depends on your strategy. So if I wanted to do it based on, so this is all currency. The levels are all based on currency. So
Okay.
if I wanted to do it based on the number of gifts they've given, and I make, instead of 250, I make this amount 1, and then I make this amount 5 or something. Like if they've given 1 time, or maybe we say 2 times this year, then instead of total gifts this year, so this wouldn't be dollars, you could say number of gifts this year. So I want them to be at the, and then I could pick in a different engagement plan. Maybe I want them to be at the gold level that I built. I built this engagement plan template for a different webinar I did. Based on the fact that they have given more than once this year. They're pretty special. I want to enroll them in this plan. So that's how you would do that. Is you just have to, it's not you as an admin that decides. It's you working with the stakeholder, with the major gift officer. And that's why if you're working with a nonprofit, these kinds of concepts are really important to know, because you need to know what questions to ask and which ways to point them in terms of, hey, this is what works with a lot of nonprofits. If you are a little bit of a nonprofit geek too, I don't know how many of you on the phone call have a lot of nonprofit experience. Binavon is a system that this woman developed for a school that she was fundraising for. And it very much can be modeled into these engagement plans. So what she did was she went to a, she had tours of the school. And the school was like a Montessori school, or something was special about the school, so that when you get a tour, you're like, wow, this is really cool. And then every day, the day after, she would call the person up and she'd say, did you like the tour? Do you have any feedback for me? And they'd say yes or no. And she's like, okay, well, would you be willing to give me the names of 5 of your friends that would be interested in taking this tour? And would you be interested in doing this activity with us? And if they say no, then she has this phrase, bless and release. And if they say yes, then eventually what she's working towards is getting people to be table captains at this free lunch event. And by the time that they go to this free lunch event, they have gone on a tour of the school, they have gone to an open house where they've seen a child or a board member speak. They've been called and thanked for coming and attending. They've been given updates on what's going on with school. And so when she has the free luncheon, then everybody is asked to give $1,000, to pledge $1,000. And this is what, the society, the children are singing and all of this stuff. So if you think about, and she was very successful. That's why she can sell this program, this Binavon program. She gives away the secret sauce for free on YouTube, but organizations pay that company $30,000 to do a workshop with their board. So if I think about that system in how it would fit into Salesforce, I would put the people who are getting a tour into an engagement plan for the end of the year luncheon, and I would enter them into that engagement plan the day after they had the tour, and I would kick them out of the engagement plan and take away all the tasks if when I bless and released them, if I had to bless and release them, then I don't have to do any of those other follow-up tasks that cultivates them all the way to that luncheon at the end of the year. And that luncheon can be campaign, because it's invitees, you can imagine those groups of people being put into one campaign that can then be used to email invitations out and change the status from invited to RSVP'd, and then when they attend, then attended, and then you can see the ROI of that event because of the number of gifts that were pledged. And I really encourage you to watch her like 7-minute video if you are helping nonprofits. It's something you can really you can share with them. So
Hey, Sarah, is this also, you could keep track of number of times people have volunteered or hours they volunteered
I
also?
think so. I think if I created a roll up for the, and that might be on the contact level. Let's see. Volunteer hours. Yep. So
Oh,
the
cool.
volunteer is the volunteer hours are connected to the contact, and which is then put into a campaign too. So if you wanted to establish them into, and this is just a great way to put somebody into an engagement plan template automatically, but there's only, you'd have to make multiple level fields. So I don't know why mine's not available, the one that comes by default, but you could make a volunteer level field and a donor level field. So you can have people sitting at multiple levels, but the way that the data architecture is, you can't have people in multiple levels as a related object like you can with engagement plans. So I can enter somebody into an engagement plan template without them sitting at a level of donor or volunteer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. So,
Yeah.
so you can have a good way to keep track of money coming in and hours that people would donate also.
Yeah.
Really.
Yes. So I have to Google why those the fields aren't coming up, but there is a way to create more than one. So I think I would just, if I was going to do that, I would just go to the contact object, fields and relationships, new, a pick list. Volunteer level, beginner, intermediate, master, whatever nonprofit you work at, that they're going to come up with some cute names for those. That's another way to engage stakeholders, right? Like you explain to them what it is, and then you say, okay, put your creative hat on. I mean, some people get engaged by that, I do, but that involves them in the process, though sometimes committeeing out those kinds of things can be obnoxious, but gives them some ownership. So then I could only put it on the volunteers contact layout, maybe. That's the only one that needs to see it, are the people who are the volunteer coordinators and stuff.
Hey, Sarah,
Yeah.
the last topic that you spoke about with the lady that had the $30,000 engagement, can we get the name or a link?
YouTube search Benamon.
Yeah, how's that spelled? Can you
I
put that
put
in
it
the
in the
notes? Oh, there we go. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, wait. Which one did I just do that on? Did I do it on this one? I didn't. Good. Okay. We're going to do it one more time. Do I have any other questions while I do this to see if it works? So what I have 2 sandbox developer orgs right now, both of which I've downloaded Npsp on. And for whatever reason, the one that I have it all set up on is, I must have uploaded a bunch of data for trying to show people things and uploaded too much for a dev org, because they don't give you tons of space, because Salesforce doesn't want you stealing their software. which makes sense, right? So this is just for us to play around with this kind of thing and not for actually storing our data. So let me see if I can go to levels and see if it'll find that field as the level field. So if I do the target as the contact, the source field as volunteer hours. Oh, I might have not downloaded the volunteer package on this one. I just did it on this one. Anyway, I'm sorry. I don't want to like bore y'all with me trying to troubleshoot why that's not popping up for me.
I had a question, Sarah, regarding the source field. So is it possible to add more values to it that would have
Yes, so what the only thing that's it is pulling up, if you look at the source field, is pulling everything up that's a number. So
Right.
it's even pulling up shipping latitude. You know, it's pulling up anything that's a number or currency field. So it does it, as long as it's on the target object, then the source field can be whatever you want it to be. So in your example, for the CDC Foundation, and I logged into the wrong CDC Foundation. Test org. For them, I've created a lot of roll-ups. So I was about to show that at the end of last week. I remember that login credential, right? Yeah, okay. So because of COVID, they have had a lot of people give through third-party vendors like Facebook or the third-party giving platforms. And then they might retarget them with an email and then they give straight to the CDC website. So I have then both hard and soft credit donors. So that's what we talked about last week, where I have opportunities that this Facebook opportunity, for instance, might have, I only gave it one partial soft credit because this is a sandbox that didn't have any data in it, but this might actually have 1,000 partial soft credits that make up this $1.5 million. And then myself gave direct donation to the CDC Foundation as well. So what I've created here and on the account level are things that we can now use in the engagement plan templates that I'm helping the major gift officer to build now, are these formula fields that are amount of gifts all time, including soft, or amount of gifts last year, including soft, because the ones that come default with Nonprofit Success Pack, this total gifts or total gifts this year or last year are just direct donations, direct opportunities. It doesn't take into account any soft credits or account soft credits. So I am, even though this is a formula field, this amount of gifts this fiscal year, including soft, I am able to use that in my level and in my engagement plan, because even though it's a formula and a number, it's still a number.
Got it. Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
Sarah, we have about 4 minutes till 2, if that matters.
I don't know if it does, but I'm sure it matters to some of y'all. I'm happy to, last week for those who had to hop off, we just stayed, hung out, asked questions, you know, talked, got to know one another till about 3:30, 3:45. So I welcome that too. I sat on a Salesforce Saturday this morning where they just kind of sat on a Zoom call doing trailheads and talking some. and I'm happy to keep showing things that I think are cool about Npsp too. Just whatever floats your boat, please feel free to chip in. Okay, yes, thank you, Monica. All right, so I do want to show, because I was starting to show you this last week around the same time. Let's see, we got lots of messages coming through. Okay, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So for Npsp settings, last week we talked about household naming. So how you could have Mr. or Mrs. first name, or how those, and we talked about some about customizable roll-ups. So I was about to show y'all how I did the COVID donations. So one thing that the CDC Foundation faced is, as they try to retarget and use different fundraising mechanisms like direct mailing to try to get funds in the door, they now had this onslaught of over 100,000 donors that gave to COVID, when the previous year they had 750 individual donors, because they mostly worked with corporations and foundations. And so then they wanted to be able to exclude COVID-only donors from certain targeted efforts. And then on the flip side, they wanted to target COVID-only donors with specific campaigns. And I was trying to come up with a solution, because they wanted to know who's COVID-only and who's not. And we had different roll-ups. So we had a roll-up for partial soft credits, so amount of partial soft credits, last soft credit gift date, and we had the amount of the hard credits. And I created some fields, like I said, to make sure everything was included. So I just took those amount fields that were rolled up through, say, like this, account soft credit this year. This is a roll-up summary field, which means that if I edited this, this is how I made this field. That's a currency field on the account object. And then I selected the target field that I wanted. So you have to create the field that you want the information to roll up to first. And then I put I put use fiscal year, because CDC's fiscal year runs July to June. And I want to say years ago, this year, but I could say 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, all of that. Or I could do all time. I could say days back, years ago. And then I created a filter group, this one soft credit. So that's what I'm about to show you. So this was already, I didn't create this actually. Cloud for Good created it. But this was already created in the system. They had the account soft credit roll up. They had the hard soft credit roll up. But we had nothing to filter out on the donor level COVID gifts. You could do it on the opportunity level, but how do I know this person didn't give to both COVID and non-COVID? How do I know, where this person lies? So I thought through it and I was like, okay, well, I need to know at the household level, at the donor level, how much was their total COVID gifts, and then how many was their total non-COVID gifts, and then how many, when was the, if those two, if non-COVID gift equals 0, then, and total COVID gifts is more than 0, then I have a formula checkbox, COVID only donor. Because ultimately what I'm trying to do is create these fields So it's easy to report on these things that the organization wants to report on quickly. So in order to do that, I created, before I could create this filter group, let me show you this filter group that a filter group allows that roll up to be filtered down. So in this case, it's if the soft credit roll name equals one of these values and the opportunity amount is not 0 or blank and the opportunity 1 equals true, that's what makes it into this filter group. For that particular field to be able to have a value there, it has to meet these criteria in addition to the criteria that I set in the actual roll-up. So if I'm going to what I did on the opportunity object to identify whether it's a COVID gift. So they use what we talked about last week with the general accounting units and the and campaign primary campaign source, which you're probably familiar with. They use a particular or a set of general accounting units to identify that it's going to the COVID relief fund, and they have the primary campaign might have coronavirus or COVID in it. So what I did, I created a checkbox field. Oh, oops, I'm not to the object yet. So if I go to the opportunity object, and for those who are newer, I'm sorry, I'm clicking around fast. I went to setup, clicked on object manager, clicked on search for opportunity, which is how a donation is recorded. So I'm going to my fields and relationships, and if I type in COVID, I created this COVID donation checkbox formula. And basically, if their code in their general accounting unit, they had multiple COVID funds, but they all had 1085 in the name of the general accounting unit. Or it might just have COVID in the name. Just to cover my basis, I did it a various amount of ways. So if you're not as familiar with formulas, this is basically saying if this primary general accounting unit name, which is a text field, contains, that's what this contains parameter is, 1085, and these little symbols, the vertical lines, that represents or. So, or if it contains COVID, or if it contains coronavirus, or if the campaign name contains coronavirus, or if the campaign contains COVID, then I'm marking this formula checkbox to true. And what's really cool about customizable rollups versus Salesforce's built-in standard rollup summaries is when you're doing a rollup summary in the standard way to do it that comes out of the box with everything, you can't use a formula as a filter criteria on the rollup. So if I have a formula field and I only want to roll up the opportunity amount on this roll-up summary field based on a checkbox formula in Salesforce's standard package, you can't do that. But you can do that with these filter groups. So if I go to COVID donation, that's what I did. So I then created a filter group. So if that COVID donation equals true and 1 equals true, so the opportunity is 1, then I'm going to have that COVID donation checkbox checked off. And then I can then start to differentiate, and I created a currency field on the account level that was for total COVID donations. So if I type in COVID right here, you can see I've done it a lot of different ways. So then I had the problem of that partial and accounts off credit gifts as well, right? So not only did I need to roll up whether or not it was a COVID gift, I needed to know, I needed to roll up the amount from either the opportunity object to the account level or the soft credit, account soft credit object to the account level, or the partial soft credit object to the account level. So basically, to get this solution for them for these reporting, I did have to create a crap ton of fields, which if you're working at a big organization, you know, or I shouldn't say big, I should say if you're working at an agile organization at a corporation, this would have taken forever because you'd have to do good governance on whether or not these fields are necessary, and you have to make your case, and you'd have to, I mean, this solution would have taken 2 months. But the nice part about being in a place where you don't necessarily have those constraints is that you can create things really fast. Now, the downside of that is, okay, well, you're creating all this stuff. You need to, 1, document it, and 2, justify it, because each of these fields takes up room in the data storage of the system, and there are data storage limits. But I found that because of how much COVID has influenced what's going on at the CDC Foundation right now, it makes sense to segregate these fields, and because they're asking for the information. So rather than try to build a complex opportunity report, export it, then drill down to a certain context level, and then have somebody who like knows the donors in their head just because they've been there for forever, go through the list and call through it because it's too hard to get it to work, I decided that it was much easier to create 25 to 30 fields, even if I had to create a bunch of them to then, so I created these currency fields that were then, I created the configurable, customizable rollups to roll up to these currency fields, doing on the emergency gifts. That's pre-COVID. They had emergency funding as well. So for the Ebola outbreak or Zika or Hurricane Michael, they had all these funds for that too. And a lot of times they want to exclude their emergency donors from big mailings because they want to, they want to only target people who aren't just going to give in a crisis. But then sometimes they wanted to target these people who gave to emergencies to give to COVID, right? So I just made the executive decision because I was asked to do it. And this seemed like, I know it might seem complicated, but it seems like the simplest way to me, to create all these different currency fields that rolled up, because then this total COVID gift formula takes those 3 roll-ups, the amount of accounts off credit COVID donations, the amount of hard credit COVID donations, and the amount of partial COVID donations, and adds them all up together into one formula. And now it can be used in Marketing Cloud to spin journeys. It can be used in my custom formula so that I have a total COVID gift and a total non-COVID gift field. So if those don't, if the non-COVID gift is greater than 0, that COVID only checkbox isn't checked off. It's just trying to make things as simple as possible when people are requesting reports over and over again at organizations, and there might be some complexities in their giving structure, like in this instance, or if you work at a membership organization, that sometimes can happen. So I'm now seeing there's a lot going on here in the chat. Does anybody want to? I was just talking and talking and talking. So does anybody want to like bring up the stuff you're talking about here, and we can all share and chat about it?
I was leaving it for Monique, but it looks like it's a volunteer management issue, like volunteer event managements. Monique, please pop in.
Sorry. So what happened was I started at a new org about 4 weeks ago, and I got access to it a week ago. And they kept saying, oh, when we put the events on their WordPress, it doesn't cap at the volunteers limit. So then I was on Power of Us asking, and I wasn't sure what's going on. And then I realized it's a custom one that they paid through the franchise nonprofit. And then I just didn't know if they had something like that within the volunteer or events app where they didn't need this custom.
The volunteer management app that you can download onto.
Yeah, they have that, and then they have the one they paid for. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the one they paid for, there's a lot of misspellings, and you can't change it, and it's a some words are Portuguese because it's a Portuguese company, and yeah, so so it's a little bit messy.
You know, you could set their user you could set their default language on their user to Portuguese if they wanted.
No, actually, it's a Dutch company, so it's so everything's in English. But it's just the app itself. The people who made it, they're from Portugal.
Oh.
Yeah.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, and they're just not very good at communication. So.
Have they tried to use the standard B4S?
They just got access to the org. Sadly they were just given one password and one login, and everyone was just doing that. So today I froze all their admin access because they were just pretending to be admins and just clicking and pressing everything. So I just wanted to just organize everything for them, and I wasn't sure if normally when you make an event, it ties into a campaign of some sort.
Right. So like this is a sample org that I built, like I said, for another presentation I did. And these are different volunteer events that I created. So volunteer shift. And you can see that it is connected to a volunteer job. So this would be an optometrist or ophthalmologist volunteer in Augusta, Georgia, the Augusta Clinic one. It has a start date and time, and then it has a job requiring schedule because this happens once a month. And so it's in terms of the open, you can see there's no volunteer hours. This volunteer shift, if I go, it's desired volunteers 1, volunteer still needed 1. And if I went here and I clicked new volunteer hours and I found, I'm sure I'm in here, right? Yeah. And I'm going to do the volunteer job of Augusta Clinic ophthalmologist, and I'm going, I don't know what date that was on. Well, I'm just gonna make this, I want to make it just the number of hours, but the start date's required. So number of volunteer hours 8. So now I'm gonna save this, confirmed. Oh, storage limit exceeded. Oh yeah, forgot. We're in that one. So basically what would happen is if I was able to create that, then
Yeah.
this volunteer shift would then see that, oh, okay, I have this 8 hours needed for this volunteer shift, and it looks like I have 1 or 2 volunteers that make up those 8 hours, so I'm covered. And so then this volunteer calendar that I came from, the shift calendar that I came from, instead of saying 0 confirmed and 1 available slot, it would be 1 confirmed and 0 available. And what you can have with this model is you can create a web page, like a standard web page that can then feed into your WordPress, and you can get your web developer to do CSS magic on it and make it look pretty. It's going to look very like old school if you
Okay.
just do the standard out of the box way. But they would be able to then log in to, they could basically, a volunteer could go to the volunteer page and sign up for any of these shifts that would be on the calendar like this.
What a shame. So that's exactly what they made.
Yeah.
Just with misspellings.
So the trailhead on that, I find, I don't know if anybody else has had this experience. I've found that some of those remote site things I can get stuck on sometimes on for setting up the volunteer page. Like, I think I did that. No, it's not remote site settings. I can't remember what you type into the quick find to get. Oh, force.com maybe. Does anybody page? I can't remember where you go to set up your volunteer site, but there's instructions all in Trailhead. I'd have to. Oh, here, sites and domains.
They'd probably want to put it on their website, like almost like a
But
web
what
to
you
lead.
do, yeah, you create this, and then on Salesforce, and then it'll give you a you can download code to give to the web developer to put on their website. So you do the kind of like the structure of it in Salesforce, and then you give the code that then feeds back into Salesforce. You give that API code to the web developer to put on their website.
Okay, no problem. Thank you.
You're welcome. And that's actually what was gonna be the topic for the week after Thanksgiving.
Well, I'll watch that too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's precisely what my one person who actually somewhat knows about Salesforce in my org wants set up, and I'm still a little iffy on that one.
Yeah. Hold on just a second.
Yep.
My mom. Hold on. Let me mute myself.
So yeah, I guess that'll be December 5th, volunteer management.
Thanksgiving plans being made.
I will do that.
Okay. So Mark, you've been reading the chats, or
Yeah.
what other topics people want?
We're all pretty caught up. Topics? Oh, communities was one. Roll-ups, customized roll-ups was another. Deep dives, I guess.
Okay.
Formulas.
What did you say?
Yeah, roll-up and
Roll-up
formulas.
and formulas. Yeah.
Formulas.
Okay. Yeah, formulas and flows.
Oh,
Mostly Salesforce geeks in this land. I hope I haven't scared off too many of the beginners.
No, no, I'm here. I'm ready.
I'm a beginner and I'm still here.
Yeah, I'm here too.
A lot of it,
Exposure.
I know a lot of it is going over my head, but
Yeah.
I love the way that you are looking for answers, because that's one of the first things that someone told me in Salesforce. Nobody knows everything. Google will be your best friend. So just seeing you, just looking for those answers, going to Google, I know, yes, there is hope for me.
Yes.
Yeah, I had to Google a lot today. I was making the users and matching them with the profile, and it kept giving me an error because I wanted to deactivate that one admin profile, but it said it was connected to the email and also for web to case. So then I froze it, and then I cloned the email notification, and then I changed the web to case creator name. Was that the right steps? I think those are right steps. I think it worked. I think it worked.
Okay, bye guys who are saying they have to go. It
Bye.
worked? Okay, good. Oh, Gmail Outlook integration. Oh, that's fun. That's not too hard either, and it's something that really, like, if you really want to impress your clients and they're not using that, it's really easy to set up. It's pretty easy to train them on, and then they think you're magic. So that's a good win.
I heard that the Gmail Outlook, the new one after this year, it's not going to match. Like you have to keep. Oh, how do I explain?
You have to refresh it without.
Yeah, it won't auto update.
Who said that? You mean the calendar won't auto update?
No, the emails.
I don't know about that. Well, maybe I should stop. Wait, hold on. Let me pull it up first. Because I have it on my email.
Yeah, for now, but I'm saying next year it's supposed to stop.
Well, it's never automatic. What I was gonna just show you is it never automatically does it. You have to log the email. Like you have to click on the log email button.
Okay. I think that might be too complicated for them.
Well, there's also email to Salesforce. That's simple.
Okay.
Yeah. What I like about this.
Look that up.
So here I am in my TechnoCaf email, and I can add Karen as a new contact to my Salesforce, and she actually works for or is associated with an organization I'm working with, Stride Ahead, and I can just go ahead and save her. Then she's in Salesforce, and I think you're right. Actually, in the Gmail one, it is automatically putting this email. It might automatically be logging this to her record. I think I noticed that. I had only been using the Outlook one before, and it definitely, you have to click on log email, or that's how I've experienced it. I don't know about anybody else. But I think it's a cool tool just because they're in their inbox anyway, right? So it's not necessarily logging the email. It's like, well, I'm sitting here doing emails all day long. Instead of having to go to a separate tab and I'm just emailing folks, I'm going to go ahead and look for Greg. You know, I'm like, okay, I'm going to look for his or somebody. I'm going to look for Caroline's record so that I can see her email. I can click on it right here, and then it'll just open up in another window, which you can't see because it's on my other screen, a new email to write to Caroline without having to go and fetch her email, and then once I'm in there, I could select an email template. Anyway, yes, that's a good topic. I think, I'm sorry, I'm geeking out and going over that. So let's definitely touch on that.
Speaking of templates, I have a question, please. I don't know if you're familiar with the use of SDocs for creating templates. The organization that I started with, they use SDoc to create thank you letters for their donors. So automation was set up and it goes out. Now, there's a question I was asked and I honestly didn't know what to say because I'm not familiar with SDocs. Can you send out from Salesforce a PDF document into an external email address? So the templates that we create in SDoc, is it possible to send it out of Salesforce as a template to external email address?
I would send a message to SDocs on the App Exchange and ask them
Okay.
that.
Okay.
That would be probably the simplest.
Because I've checked a lot. Yeah, I've gone through a lot of Trailblazer communities. I've Googled my eyes out.
I would go to the SDoc on the App Exchange and ask them directly.
Okay.
I think is that a free free app?
No. Yeah, it is. It is free.
So
and
it might not have the best support.
Okay.
But I found I think it was free at one point. Whenever it was free, I downloaded it to play around with it, and I had a hell of a time.
Hell of a good time or hell of a bad time?
Bad time. I had a hard time getting it to work. It looks like, but it says its latest release was at the end of July here on when I'm looking at the App Exchange. So yeah, they probably have somebody, if they're updating it that frequently, they probably have somebody you can write.
Okay, I'll try that.
Yeah.
Thanks. I have another question. Sorry.
Regarding
the engagement plan. No, that's fine. Regarding the engagement plans, when you were going through it, there was something you said when you were creating the levels. When going through the requirements with the clients of what they want in their engagement plans, you said the key was to ask the right questions, just asking all those questions. Yeah. Now, as a newbie who just started, I'm going to be doing engagement plans next week. So I'm going to go into that meeting where they will tell me all their requirements. How do I know those right questions to ask?
Well, that's why I'm going to give y'all, I'll send out that Excel sheet template.
Right.
Basically, you have to think of it like, what is an engagement plan? It's an action or task assigned to a person after a certain amount of time when something happened. So what triggers the person to have these series of tasks put to them? So I'll send you and you and I've been emailing anyway, so I'll just send you the Excel file directly, and then you can take that to them and say, okay, here's an example. You know, the executive director writes a thank you note 30 days after this has done, and this is what it's going to look like. So you can tell them that the task, can you see my Excel? Is that what you're seeing right now?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm going to email you this, but you can just say, what are the things that you want? What are the touch points? So this would be the question, like, what are the touch points that you want? And I think actually I also have a couple of other things, other documents that I've made that I could give you that have some of these questions on them too.
Oh, please. Thank you.
Because I'm working on a course or had brainstormed working on a course that would help nonprofits think through this business structure. Because I think sometimes, like I said, as admins, if you don't know the nonprofit world as much, you don't necessarily know how to ask the right questions, like you said,
Yeah.
to make sure that the system is doing all that that's meant to, or it's that it can do. I'm just trying to pull it up. Hold on just a second. Oh, here it is. So a cultivation planning, like I basically like circle the ones that you want, and then I have it like more than that, right? So it's not even just how do we want to set up the archetype of these tasks and these people, or not archetype, the structure, the engagement plan for these levels and these people. I also have how do you want to categorize people broader than that? Like let's think more strategically. Let's not just think, okay, how do we want this to function, but as an organization, how do I want to categorize people? How do I want to market to them? So pancreatic cancer, I want to categorize some people in the affected group, and how would I involve them and how would I find them? So this is this work this template I put together, or this part of it, like this piece was more for the levels and the automations, right? This thank you notes, and that's kind of in line with my spreadsheet. This piece would be thinking through those engagement plans that aren't automated or aren't as a particular level. It might be a particular characteristic that a person is. So if they were affected by pancreatic cancer, whether they had a loved one or had, I mean, basically in this case, the person whose mother died of pancreatic cancer, which I have a few friends that happened to, unfortunately. And we want to think about the ways to find that person and ways to involve them in our cause. And then on the other hand, we have professional allies. And so I'm wanting to ask the major gift officer, how do you want to touch these people? What do you think would be good touch points or good tasks for you to maintain these relationships and these conversations with these potential donors? Same thing with the volunteer coordinator. What would be the potential touch points you'd want if somebody was in this group of people? So if somebody was in this campaign of people, what would you want that to look like? So I can share these with you as well. And if you
Sarah,
would tell me how
you're my new best friend.
Huh?
Thank you. I said you're my new best friend.
Oh.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Just don't share them out too much. I think I want to know how it goes, but I'm building this to try to use in my own consulting practice. But I do want to share it with you. We're all trying to help the world be a better place, right?
Back to you. Yeah, and I understand what you mean. I'll feed back to you how it went. And
okay, yes, that would be great.
Sarah, you do plan on having some kind of training, you say in February, right? A package that you're going to offer?
So this will be my Salesforce administrator training that I'm going to do. And I've worked out, CDCF has agreed for us to have, I'm going to have 2 cohorts of students wanting to take the administrator exam, 10 people in each class. And CDC Foundation has agreed for one of our projects to evaluate CDC Foundation security and access. So real life project that they really need. And so I am looking for more of those. If you have a nonprofit that wants to get set up, I have some leads on basically, if you think about, if you've already taken the exam, all the different sections that it has, the org setup, the reports and dashboards, the sales and marketing, service and support, all those different categories, I'd really love to, at least for a few of those, get some real hands-on sandboxes that have multiple users where the class can go in and work to solve a problem together, rather than just rote memorization. So that is one of my goals that I'm doing in February, March.
Excellent. That sounds great. Last week you mentioned a book, The Ask.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I think, is this the one? Can you see?
Yes.
Okay.
That is
For
the one.
everyone. Yeah, I'm on chapter 3 already. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. Oh, you're frozen.
Yeah, it's very good. And I think it also will work with these, when you think about the engagement plans, because, the steps that this book has, it goes into great detail and gives great examples about the whole process, basically, of fundraising.
Right. And so Monica is asking what the book is about.
How to ask for support for your nonprofit cause, creative project, or business venture. So it's a very good book. It's basically how do you ask people for money? And there's a lot to it, and it's very detailed. The book is by Laura Fredericks, and I'll show it again here. There it is. That's what it looks like. And it goes through the various steps of, the first chapter is actually about how do you feel about money and coming to grips with what it means to you so that you don't have any barriers to ask someone else for help, basically, or their involvement. It's so far so good. It's really good. If you think it would be worth talking, having chapter by chapter, like a summary or something during this meeting, we could do that.
It's up to the group.
Yeah. Sort of like a book club, 5 minutes or something. Yeah, I will type it in.
I think that sounds good to me because I'm a little bit nervous asking an org, hey, you need to get a paid app versus, trying to get them to do something.
Well, and it depends on the person's budget, right? And you got to be able to sell that ROI to them. And if you're going to have somebody who's who the people who hold the keys to the kingdom are, and if those people are keys to the queendom, if you will, if those people are going to be tightwads with everything, and you're not going to be able to convince them, but try to. I guess I shouldn't say no. There's certain things I know I can't convince my mother-in-law to spend money on, right? I didn't invite her to come wedding dress shopping with me because I knew she'd think I was spending too much if I didn't find one under $99. So I think it's knowing your audience, but yeah, definitely being able to see that ROI. And sometimes the free apps are good, but if you can just account for your hours and say, this is how many hours it would take me to do this for you, and this is what this app does for this money, and I don't have to do anything, and I can spend my time doing something else for you.
No, I agree. I think, I had a meeting with someone, and so my org is new, and I know that you have to do backups, and she was like, oh, we use Spanning for backups, and I think it was like $590 per user or something like that. And I was like, oh man, how would I convince them that they need something like this in order to keep their org and their data, that convincing them versus making me have to do a weekly reminder when this can be automated. I don't know.
Anybody have any success or horror stories in that? The app that I brought up last time from Voki's question about importing duplicates or seeing duplicates, Cloud Dingo, I made a case for that for the CDC Foundation. And it's not a huge amount of money, but it wasn't necessarily, I had to sell it as, I actually did a PowerPoint of how many duplicates there were, how many hours it would take to manually merge each of the duplicates, and how many hours Cloud Dingo could do it, and actually did the ROI math for them. I don't think they needed to be sold that hard because they trust me and they'd probably just say, okay, Sarah says we should do this, but I wanted to cover my data. So I think that kind of analysis, when you kind of try to figure out, and it took me a while to do that analysis, right? So the analysis of my, the number of hours it would take me, took me a few hours to do the analysis. So they're paying for me to do the analysis, but I think it's worth it in the end.
The other thing to consider is, excuse me, so I don't come from the nonprofit world, but inaccuracies, when you're manually inputting things and you get something wrong, it's hard to even put a value on that sometimes. So an app that just takes it from one place to the other, hugely beneficial.
Ben, what do you do?
I'm in sales. I actually sell management software right now to garages, automotive repair. Yeah.
And do
Interesting.
you, and are you looking to be a Salesforce admin, or you already have your?
Yeah, that's really where. So like a lot of people, I ended up with some free time from April till July, thanks COVID, right? I had a real close friend who's been in the Salesforce ecosystem for 5 years or so, maybe a little bit more, that she's been doing it, and she suggested that admin was a good place to go. And we use Salesforce, so I've been a user for a couple years.
Oh, well.
So I wasn't like completely fresh, but admin is a whole different animal.
Right.
You know, yeah, and certainly it's easier to be around like-minded folks in the nonprofit world than it is to be in the business world. So that's definitely a direction that I'd love to go.
Okay, excellent. All right, thank you, Voki. We will be in touch. I'll send you that email. Okay. Well, anybody else have any questions, or we can adjourn an hour early today? An hour earlier than last week. I'm happy to hang out, like I said last week.
Yeah, like I said,
People
December
are lonely,
5th.
or just don't feel like going back to wherever's outside your office door.
Get outside, have
I've
fun.
been there. I'm not there right now, but I've been there, so I'm here with you. Stick with me.
For some fun in about gosh, all right, so it'll be like 2:15 my time, about an hour and a half. So about an hour and a half, I'm going to be giving my first Salesforce presentation.
Woo.
It's like,
Good luck.
Salesforce ecosystem, it's actually like a performance about sustainability. Because that was my past life as a community organizer. As a form of therapy, I'd write parody songs about climate change, like ice, ice, water. Dun, 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 dun. And so, yeah, so one of the group leaders is asking me to liven up one of the meetings in between the presenters, have a little musical break. And so I'll be getting my first hoodie from that. And it'll be educational, entertaining, and engaging for those who dance along.
Excellent. Well, post where you're going to be in the notes there and have some folks join you if they can.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I saw that on your LinkedIn.
It's
But
on his LinkedIn.
There we go. Trailblazer community groups. Very nice.
And
Yeah.
I know we only have 11 people left. Hope everybody's joined the LinkedIn Salesforce Saturday group. If you haven't, I'll post the link right here for you to request to join.
And we'll be meeting again December 5th, right?
Yes, December 5th, talking about volunteers or anything.
Volunteer management.
Anything else people want. And like I said, feel free to email me anytime, whatever, I'm here.
I have a quick question about the group. What kinds of things do you guys post in there? I'm not in the group because I'm not on LinkedIn, but.
Oh, get on LinkedIn, Denise.
It's complicated.
Oh, well, you can block people.
You know what it is? I used to have it, and then like I started to get so much spam from LinkedIn that I got fed up with it one day and just like
fixed it. I think they fixed that. I know what you're talking about. It's like they made it so you accidentally automatically invite all your friends to LinkedIn.
Oh my God, that happened to me. My landlord was invited.
Yeah. Yeah, be careful what you
but
click.
I'm just posting, like I'm using it, I'm posting other, like today I posted a healthcare user group recording from one of my friends that runs a healthcare user group in case you're interested in Health Cloud. I'm posting reminders of this. I figure we can all have conversation. If you have a question like we've had in these groups, you can ask it in the nonprofit cloud forum. And yes, you can ask it as, obviously you can ask it in the Salesforce community and Trailblazer community and all of that. What I'm thinking of this is more like, oh, well, you know what? I can just show you better. Let's hop on a Zoom real fast. You know, like a tighter knit community than putting something out on Power of Us Hub or the Trailblazer community and having a back and forth and having to like, you know, feel like you're screaming into the void. Like there's somebody monitoring this group, right? So, I prefer not to have it in two places. And I think LinkedIn, it makes sense because everybody's trying to like push their career forward. So I think that's the best, in terms of me moderating it, it's best for me because I'm totally a computer person and I'm not a phone person. So Slack and WhatsApp and stuff is a little more difficult for me to be. I'm actually way more responsive to email and LinkedIn messages than I am to texts and WhatsApp messages. But somebody else might, you know, if anybody else wants to start the community Slack or whatever, I'd just rather have it all in one place.
But there is a Slack, Ohana Slack, and there's a whole bunch of different channels. There's I'm still exploring myself the space. I think there's a nonprofit. Yeah, there's a nonprofit channel on there.
Oh, okay, cool.
So, yeah, I'm with you. I am also not great on Slack. I'm part of the Ohana one, and I just feel like it's so big that I can never catch up with what everyone's chatting. But no, that's fine. I've been thinking about getting back into LinkedIn, but I was just curious about what I'm missing so far.
Yeah, I think that they've fixed some of that spammy stuff that you're talking about. Like, because I got complaints from some of my network. I mean, people like my parents who have been retired for 10 years, you know, and just like, Sarah, why are you inviting me to join your... I'm like, I didn't mean to press anything.
So my final straw with LinkedIn, just as a fun fact, I got a marketing or a sales message from like a marketing manager at a Popeyes, like the Popeyes chicken restaurant. They were messaging me on LinkedIn about some new thing. And that was the day that I said enough. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like a lot of And maybe it's because we work in this ecosystem. I feel like I get a lot of cold cally tech. Hey, let's set time things.
I
I
think
just
your
can't.
settings, I Google what your privacy settings can be and just lock them down all the way. That's what I would do.
Yeah.
Because
Or
you
you
have
just
to
create
give
a
them
LinkedIn
permissions to
No.
find you and stuff now.
You can also just create a LinkedIn like Steve Mo. Have you seen? What's his real last name? Steve Mo.
Molus.
Molus?
Yeah, have you seen his LinkedIn? It is envious. It is just like he's like I do because he has such a reputation in the chatter community, in the Salesforce community. So his LinkedIn is like, yeah, I do work at lawn servicing.
I'm gonna find it.
Oh, I see what you're
It's a
saying. So
character.
the recruiters don't.
Yeah, so it's enough for like for Salesforce people to know from
Right.
you know and
That makes so much sense.
It's like a persona.
his job. Yeah, I've been here for 20 years, even though I don't know what I do.
Years and years ago, I was told I could go to Hilton Head for free for a weekend. I'm gonna stop recording this and then I'm gonna cut